Hey man, there's a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't look like exhaustion. It looks like thinking, like replaying, like going over the same conversation 100 times in your head and landing in a slightly different place each time, but never somewhere that actually settles. You're not devastated in any visible way. You're not angry, not crying, not visibly falling apart. You're just tired in a place you can't point to. And underneath all of it, there's something you've been carrying that you keep stepping around. A thought you've started more than once and backed away from, because naming it felt too final, too harsh. Like saying it out loud would make you the villain of a story you were trying to rewrite as something better. The thought is, she's not worth it. Not as a verdict on her, not as proof that you wasted your time, not as something to say out loud to anyone, just as an honest reckoning with what the experience actually cost you and what it was actually giving you in return. This video isn't about convincing you to feel something. It's about naming what you're already feeling, but haven't allowed yourself to say clearly yet. Because the exhaustion you're carrying has a name, and the name is simpler and more honest than anything you've been calling it. What the feeling underneath the exhaustion actually is, that's where this starts. You've been calling it confusion. You've told yourself you need more clarity, more closure, a real conversation where things finally get explained in a way that makes sense. You keep searching for the version of this story where it all has a reason that you can file away and move past. What that feeling actually is, underneath the confusion, underneath the replaying, is grief. Not grief the way it shows up in obvious losses, not the acute kind, the low-grade, persistent kind that arrives when something slowly failed to become what you needed it to be, when hope quietly depleted itself, trying to sustain a reality that wasn't there. You've been grieving, but you've been calling it something that felt more fixable, because grief implies finality, and you weren't ready for finality yet. So the brain found other words: confusion, uncertainty, not knowing where things stand, all of them technically accurate, none of them the thing. The thing is that it didn't work. It was never going to work the way you needed it to. And you're grieving the version of it that you kept believing was still possible if you just held out a little longer. But beneath the grief is something older than the relationship itself, something that was true before it ended. You knew, not necessarily as a conscious thought you'd already processed, but in the way the body knows things before the mind is willing to receive them. In the specific quality of the discomfort that appeared in certain moments and that you explained away. She's going through something, things will settle, I just need to be more patient. There was a moment, maybe several moments, maybe a long, slow stretch of them, when something in you registered, this is not the right thing. And you stayed anyway, not because you were stupid, not because you were weak, because leaving when you're not certain feels like cruelty, because the investment was already so large that walking away felt like erasing it, because hope is persistent and will manufacture reasons to wait when everything else has stopped producing them. But knowing and staying, living in that gap, has a cost that doesn't always show up in the obvious places. It shows up as the exhaustion, as the constant background processing, as the specific depletion of someone who has been working very hard not to arrive at a conclusion that was already available to them. The gap between what you knew and what you admitted is where most of the damage happened. People call that gap patience. They call it loyalty. They call it giving someone a real chance. And some of those things are true in the right context, but in the wrong context, staying past knowing is something different. It's a specific kind of self-betrayal that disguises itself as virtue. Not because you were wrong to want it to work. Of course you wanted it to work. That's not a flaw. The flaw, if you can even call it that, is the way the mind protects hope by misidentifying the warning signals as something that just needs more time. She was distant, but maybe she's just going through something. She was inconsistent, but maybe she's figuring herself out. She didn't show up the way you needed, but maybe you were asking for too much. Underneath every maybe, was the real question you were avoiding. What if none of those maybes are true? What if the pattern is just the pattern? And the reason that question was so hard to sit with is that sitting with it meant accepting something. That acceptance, specifically the cost of delaying it, is the deepest wound in this whole experience. Here's what staying past knowing actually cost you. Not just time, though it cost you that. Not just the relationship, though it cost you that too. It cost you your trust in your own perception. Every time you noticed something was wrong and talked yourself out of it, you were training a reflex that said, your first read isn't reliable, your discomfort isn't informative, the thing that felt off probably has a reasonable explanation you just haven't found yet. And the more you practiced that reflex, the harder it became to trust the signal in the moment it arrived. That's the hidden cost. Not the heartbreak, which heals. The erosion of confidence in your own instincts, which takes longer, which is quieter, which doesn't announce itself as damage, but shows up later as hesitation when it matters. This is why the exhaustion runs deeper than the relationship. You weren't just processing what happened with her, you were trying to reconstruct your own sense of what's real. But beneath all of that, beneath the confusion and the grief and the erosion, there's something that comes when you finally stop fighting the conclusion. What people usually expect from the phrase, "she's not worth it," is anger or self-protection. The bitterness of someone who's been burned and is reaching for something that reestablishes their dignity. They expect the phrase to be defensive, a wall, a posture, something designed to keep the wound from showing. People call it moving on or over it or cutting her off. But when the phrase actually lands, the real version, not the defensive one, it doesn't feel like any of those things. It feels like relief. Specifically, the kind of relief that comes from finally saying the true thing after a long period of saying the careful thing. After weeks or months of, I don't know what to think, and maybe things will change, and I just need to understand what happened. After all of that, saying the simple, honest thing feels like a weight leaving your chest. Not because she was bad, not because you were mistreated in some dramatic, definable way, but because the cost was real. The emotional labor was real, the depletion was real, and all of it was going somewhere that couldn't hold it. That's what the phrase names. Not her failure, the accounting. And underneath the relief of the accounting is something else. What clarity actually produces when it's allowed to settle. Clarity doesn't feel triumphant. This is the part that surprises people. They expect that finally accepting she wasn't worth it would feel like winning something, like arriving somewhere solid after a long time in the fog. It does feel solid, but it's quiet. There's no celebration in it. What clarity actually feels like is the absence of a noise you'd gotten so used to that you stopped noticing it. The absence of the loop, the replaying, the analyzing, the searching for the version of events that makes everything coherent. That loop has been running in the background for a long time, and when it finally stops, what you notice first is the silence. And the silence is strange for a moment, because you're used to the noise telling you something important is still unresolved. You're used to the processing feeling like progress. When it stops, you wonder briefly if you've given up, if the silence means you've abandoned something. But that's not what it is. The loop didn't stop because you gave up. It stopped because it ran its course, because it finally reached a conclusion that the mind could rest in. And the conclusion isn't that she was terrible, it's that it wasn't the right fit, and you paid more than the situation was worth, for longer than you needed to, because you kept hoping the math would change. What that conclusion does to how you move forward, that's where the real shift lives. When the accounting is finally done, when she's not worth it has fully landed, your relationship with the past changes. Not in the way that makes the past disappear. The memories are still there. The moments that were real are still real. What changes is that they stop being evidence in an ongoing case. You were using the memories as material, searching through them for clues, for the missed signal, for the moment when everything went sideways. The good memories were being used to argue against the conclusion. The bad ones were being used to justify it. Everything was in service of a verdict you hadn't let yourself reach yet. When the verdict arrives, the memories stop working so hard. They settle. They become what they actually are. Moments from something that happened, some of which were good, some of which were painful, all of which are over. That settling is significant, because a lot of the exhaustion wasn't about the relationship itself. It was about the ongoing cognitive labor of trying to make sense of it. And once clarity ends that labor, the energy returns to you. Not immediately, gradually, but you'll notice it in specific ways. Longer attention span, cleaner thoughts, the ability to be fully present in moments that have nothing to do with her, because you're not splitting your focus anymore. Here's what this reveals about the larger pattern. Not just this situation, but how you've been processing relationships in general. The specific suffering you went through wasn't just about her. It was about the relationship between you and your own discomfort. You have a reflex, and it's not unique to you, it runs in most people, that says discomfort is a problem to be solved rather than a signal to be listened to. When something feels wrong, the reflex reaches for an explanation that makes the wrong thing temporary. That extends patience a little further. That believes the situation just needs a little more time, a little more understanding, a little more effort. That reflex isn't pathological. In many contexts, it's how mature people navigate difficulty. But in this context, it was the mechanism that kept you in something past the point your gut had already completed its assessment. The most honest thing about this experience is that your gut was right. Earlier than you acknowledged it, you protected her from the conclusion your gut had already reached, and in doing so, you extended the cost. And that pattern, not the relationship, the pattern is what's worth examining now. Here's the insight that the experience is actually trying to give you, if you're willing to receive it. The phrase, "she's not worth it," isn't primarily about her. It's about what you're worth. The way you stayed past knowing, the way you made excuses, the way you kept recalculating the cost, as if this time the numbers would come out differently. That's not a failure of intelligence or emotional health. It's what happens when a man hasn't fully absorbed the weight of his own attention as something valuable. Your emotional investment is not infinite. Your patience is not infinite. The specific resource of caring, of trying, of giving someone repeated access to your interior life, that's not inexhaustible. And once you feel the true weight of what you spent, not with resentment, just with accuracy, you don't make the same mistake the same way. Not because you become harder, because you become more honest about what it costs you to invest in someone who isn't meeting the investment. That honesty isn't cynicism, it's the beginning of actually valuing yourself in the specific way that protects you without closing you. There's one more layer here, the compassionate one. She's not worth it doesn't mean she has no worth. This is important, because if the phrase produces contempt, it hasn't actually landed. It's just become a defense mechanism, a way of protecting the wound by turning it into judgment. The real version is quieter than that, more honest. It contains something like, she is who she is, and who she is couldn't meet what this required. And what this required was real. And the cost of discovering that was real. And I stayed longer than I needed to, and that's also real. All of those things can be true simultaneously, without her being a villain, and without you being a fool. You tried to make something work that wasn't built to work. That's a human thing to do. The grief of it is real grief, not weakness. The exhaustion was earned exhaustion, and the clarity that follows, the specific, quiet clarity of, this is done, and I understand why it's done, that's earned too. Hey man, what you've been circling around, the phrase you've been trying not to let yourself say, is probably true. It's probably been true for longer than you've wanted to admit. And saying it honestly, not angrily, not bitterly, not as a performance of having moved on, just honestly, as the most accurate accounting you can produce of what this cost versus what it gave, is not cruelty. It's the beginning of being truthful with yourself. The exhaustion you're carrying came from somewhere specific. The confusion you've been treating as the main problem is actually a symptom of avoiding the conclusion, and the conclusion is available to you. She's not worth it. Not because she failed as a person, because the fit wasn't there, and the cost of refusing to acknowledge that was paid in ways you're still recovering from. When that settles, fully, without defense, without bitterness, the loop stops. And when the loop stops, you come back to yourself. Not as someone who won, not as someone who got out, as someone who finally told the truth and felt the specific relief of having done so. That truth is yours. It's been waiting for you. You don't need to say it to anyone else. You just need to stop arguing with it inside yourself. If this is something you recognized in yourself, this channel is here for that.